Good to have you all. We have a great session ahead of us with a great lineup, and I would like to introduce to you our speakers of today. I'm really sorry, technical issues. Our speakers of today, Monica, would you please be so kind and introduce yourself?
Thank you, Yuta. Good morning or good afternoon, everyone. My name is Monica Godoy. I'm Senior Principal Product Manager for Oracle Apex. It's a pleasure to stay here with all of you.
Thank you, Monica. And Stefan, would you please introduce yourself to us?
Wonderful. Thank you, Uta, for having me with you and with this great webinar. So my name is Stefan LaRocca. I'm just living in the Oracle ecosystem for 26 years by now in different roles. And I'm responsible for a business development for PITS. And I'm here for today's questions during a migration from Forms to Apex.
Thank you, Stefan. And my name is Uta Daniels. I'm Sales and Partner Network Specialist at PITS, and I will be your moderator for today. Before we start discussing our today's topic, I would like to give you a short overview on why this webinar is actually important, and also why we as PITS are predestined to discuss such an essential topic. This webinar actually will answer most common questions concerning a Forms to Apex project from both perspectives, Oracle and PITS. You will gain insights on how to manage business logic to database, which is an imminent step within a modernization. You will get a real-world best practice out of Forms Apex modernization projects, and you will also get proven first steps into a successful Forms to Apex project. Oracle and PITS connects not only a 25-year partnership, but it also connects we connect a great number of joint projects and events. Over all the years, we as PITS have been the proven Oracle Forms modernization partner to many different companies from all different industries and sizes. And through this, we've gained a huge expertise in Oracle legacy migration and modernization. And to join forces once more and get you the best insights today in our panel discussion, we would like to encourage you as the audience of today, please address your questions. And please, if you are able to see the chat function, use the chat function for addressing your questions. Thank you. We've gathered quite some questions beforehand during the registration process already. Thank you for that. But we are also good to take up any other questions which will arise during the session in the panel. So Monica and Stefan are happy to answer questions coming up during the session. Please feel free to address. So Monica, Stefan, I'm really happy to kick off our panel discussion, and I would like to take up our first question which came up. How do you actually start such a modernization from Forms to Apex?
So to answer that, please allow to share my screen and just you see yourself or ourselves for a second before I start with my presentation to walk through these questions. Wait just a second. Okay, Monica, you wrote a brilliant blog entry a couple of weeks, I believe, before, where you describe exactly step by step the walk through a migration. Everybody could see that link on the slide over here. And we try to group the questions which came up with the registration to these various steps. So you see these 6 steps from defining a functional area down to going live with your Apex application. And based on this chapters we want to walk through, coming up to the first question. Uta, thanks for that. Yeah, what is the best approach? So Monica, what did you think? What is your approach or your advice for this?
Okay, thank you, Stefan. Can you in order to answer this question, I would like to explain something really quick. Here, exactly. So essentially, this is the diagram for the modernization, right? What you have to do at the beginning, what you have to do in the database side, and what to do in Apex. So essentially, when you have your set of forms you want to move to Apex, you will need to review those, right? Define and try to extract the important business logic that you have in these forms. If it's possible, you can push that logic to the database. Of course, I understand sometimes it's hard to move the logic, but if you can do it, will be great, because this will, in Apex, you can invoke those packages, procedures easily, right? When you need it from your page or of your application. So essentially, that's the first part, that you review the forms, and then you can start building your Apex application, right? In Apex, we don't have any tool to expedite the process. Stefan will talk more about the tool that they have built to expedite the process, right? But if you don't have the tool, you can start modernizing your forms application from scratch, building your applications. And we are going to talk about later more about the attributes, for example, the security, navigation, the user interface that you can include in your Apex application, right? But and once you have complete to build your application, you can deploy it, right? You can publish this application on your production or the environment that you need. And to answer the question, a specific question that the attendee share with us, well, the question is, what's the best approach to define the part of the application that you are supposed to start, right? This depends on your own criteria, right? Because you can start with the simple forms, so you can start seeing the results on your Apex applications faster. But also, if you prefer, let's say that you have business requirements to meet today. So you can start with those forms that have a bigger impact on your business, right? It depends on the requirements that you have, depends on the goals also that you have in your business, right? So essentially, that's it. This is, and I don't know, Stefan, if you would like to add something else.
Yeah, so what we saw in our experience with from other projects we run is that is sometimes not as easy to split down or to cut out a specific part of the application. So what we provide with our product is a possibility to redesign your application based on the existing implementation. So this is a picture out of around about 1,100 forms modules, which are clustered by some kind of grouping algorithms, and then provide the information how these cluster or systems interact underneath. So with this, you could direct or could have a good understanding what are the dependencies between these modules, because for very, very large forms application, you should avoid having a big bang at the end. So like you said, Monica, you could start with small approaches, with small steps, starting in Apex and having Apex and forms running side by side on the same database with the same data and functionality like you described. But in that case, you should try to avoid the dependencies between forms and Apex too much. So if you could cut something like a single cluster over here, like this one over on top, which has very rare dependencies to other modules, that may be a good starting point because there's less risk and less effort to integrate that in the rest of your environment. It doesn't make sense to start with something like this cluster, which has a lot of in and outcoming dependencies. So this overview of your application may help to identify the scenario where you like to start with and allow you a stepwise migration from forms to Apex running during the migration phase things side by side. Depending on that, the second question is, if we now have an idea where we start, what is the amount of forms we should take care of? Oh, yeah, please go ahead.
There was another question in the first slide,
Yeah.
in how to modernize large applications, right?
Yeah.
And essentially, when you have small or large applications to modernize, essentially, you have to follow the same steps. But
Right.
as Stefan mentioned, you have to take in mind that both applications can coexist, Forms and Apex. So in the meantime, when you are modernizing one of the set of the forms that you need to move, you can have your forms applications using the same database objects, right? So it doesn't mean that you have to modernize the entire set from one day to another, right? It takes a couple of time, right? It takes a couple of months to complete the entire modernization. So in the meantime, you can have both, right? I just wanted to mention that.
Okay. So there's one question coming up about global variables in Oracle Forms. Does the migration to Apex convert global variables? So first of all, Monica, what is your advice if I have something like a configuration variable, something which I would like to access everywhere in my application, like something like a tenancy name or some configuration information? What is your advice to where to implement this?
Yeah, so in Apex, we have something that you can find on shared components. When you have on your application, you can find something. Let me go there. I'm not going to share because I don't want to hassle this. But you can find under application logic something called application items, right? So you can decide what is the scope for these application items. It can be only for it is going to be available only for the application, or is going to be available globally. So you can use it for several applications on your workspace, right?
Yeah.
So this is a way that you can address these global variables in Oracle Forms.
Wonderful. And before first of all, the answer from our perspective is yes, we covered that during the migration. So we exactly generate application items out of these global variables. But before that, we have an analyze based on the usage of global variables, because we saw in multiple forms environments that global variables are created, but not for their typical use case. So sometimes they are used just for parameter setting in one forms module and reading them in the other. So the use case of the global variables will be evaluated by our tool, and we advise what to do with this afterwards. There's a second question. I believe it's a good point to pick that up by now. In regards to Forms and Apex working side by side, how can Apex and Forms work sharing the same authentication? Do we need to build something specific in Forms or in Apex?
Not
Monica,
really. Yeah, so in Apex, you can find a number of pre-configured authentication schemas. For example, it's pretty common that you have in the type of the authentication that you have in Forms is database accounts, right? So the same authentication you can use in Apex applications, right? So for example, if you are using database accounts, you can choose the same authentication type for your Apex applications. If you have LDAP authentication or any other, you just need to select the proper authentication in your Apex application, and that's it. If you prefer to use the same authentication, great, because your users will be very happier, right? Because they don't want the changes. So that's great.
Okay, thank you. Okay, then let's go ahead with the pre-defined or questions from the registration. So one of the questions is the other way around. Is it possible to separate Apex database from the data database? Is there a way to just distinguish both?
It's possible? Yes. The short answer is yes. But do you really want to do that? I'm not sure about it, right? Because one of the cool features of Apex is that you have your development platform on the database, right? On the database side. So I really don't want that you want to put your Apex application on a different database and your data is in another place. So it doesn't look very well. I'm going to put a link on the chat so you can read more about it. So this is the architecture of Apex. I'm afraid I can share the link to everyone.
You can.
You should.
Now I
Yes.
can.
There's a chat functionality you should be able to address to
Yes.
everybody.
No, it says host and panelists.
Yeah, you have to choose the all. You have to tick the button all.
No, I don't have the option. Okay, I put the link there, Uta, see if you can.
Yep, no
Okay.
worries.
So anyway, that's the architecture of Apex, so you can take a look, right? Because one of the cool things here is that you can access your database objects directly from your application. So if you compare Apex with other platforms or other development platforms, you are going to notice how much time it will take when you need to move or when you need to call or when you need to request something from the database side and move it then to the platform, to the application, right? And that's the whole difference with Apex, because you don't have any type of latency when you are accessing this data, right? If you go to the link, you will see the three tier architecture, right? The browser, the web server, and at the end, the database. And you will see Apex, the engine of Apex in the database, right? So there are a number of features. If you move your data to another place, not in the same place that that Apex, yes, you can do it. And you can access this data using REST data sources or using REST-enabled SQL, or even you can use database links. But I will think it's not the best approach. Probably it will be great to hear what are the specific reasons behind this question, right? Because probably there is a reason for that. But I will say it's not the best approach.
And the other way around, we talk about that we try to save as much as possible logic from forms inside the database. What is your advice to cover the complexity of the database? So how could I modernize the system without disrupting or increasing the complexity?
Well, something that I mentioned at the beginning, right, is if you can move your business logic to the database, that will really help along with the entire application when you are building or invoking those business logic. That will be great. And also, I don't see any type of increasing of the complexity on the database side if you want to move your business logic to the database. Any points here, Stefan?
Yeah, so I think one point is really to have a good package structure inside the database available. So from that point, let me try to describe. What we try to do is from Oracle Forms, we try to extract as much as possible business logic into the database, and we are able to structure them on various packages level. So functionality which are used globally and come up from program units which are used in many places, or library functionality. It could be a common package inside the Oracle database. And the more specific it gets, at least if you want to address functionality for a specific page or page group, it will be a package according to this. So you have a very clear structure forward to these packages inside the database. What I try to do is in this I just analyze the last 10 applications we take care about. So this is the outcome of around about 4,000 modules and split over 10 applications, so around about 400 modules per application. And you see the average or the amount of code which is distributed over the triggers. So you see most of the cases, the implementation took place in when button pressed or when validate item. So this functionality is best designed to have them in the database. So behind the action in Apex, you only call a database procedure providing all the functionalities, and all the dependency is covered inside the database. And especially when validate item, you never have only one item or one item of a table in one page. You will use them multiple times. So if you bring them down to database, you make it reusable over your entire application. So you could also consolidate code by bringing those back to packages. But especially for when validated item, Monica, what we discussed with a couple of our last customers is to create the packages based more or less on the table API approach. So when we see that we bring all information which are relevant for a specific table object together in one package, we have the possibility to provide something like a table API. I believe that is also not very unfamiliar with Apex, isn't it?
Correct. And not just to mention that there are more than 80 APIs in Apex, PSQL and JavaScript APIs that you can use, right? And these will help you to expedite the process with the modernization. This is really interesting because as you can see here, you can find a number of triggers in forms, right? Some of them, you can address them using something called dynamic actions in Apex. But also there are a few things that also you can define in a declarative way, but also there are these APIs that you can use, right? So that's why it's very important that also you know what are the components and all the features that you can have in Apex, so you can address what you have in forms correctly.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Wonderful. There are a couple of new questions arise, and I like these interactive modes, so having an active audience. So let me try to order them in a helpful way. First of all, a question, I believe it's more or less on the infrastructure. Do I need to install Apex for every application I am modernizing? So how do you structure the Apex backend infrastructure, or how would you say that? What is necessary?
Okay, so you need to install Apex for every application? No, not at all. Do you just need to install Apex in your database? It can be in the development, testing, whatever is the environment that you want to use for this modernization, you have to do it only one time, right? If we are talking about on-premise, because if you are using Apex on Oracle Cloud, let's say that you are provision an autonomous database, that includes Apex automatically. So you don't need to install anything, right? So once you have your Apex environment, you will need to create your first workspace. The workspace are the place where you can build your Apex applications. So you can have multiple workspaces. That depends, of course, on your requirements. Probably you just need only one workspace, and then you can start building your Apex applications, all of them in the same workspace, right? Probably because if you need to share the application items, as we mentioned before, probably you will need those to access globally, right? So that's for the installation of Apex. You just need one installation per environment, development, testing, production, any environment that you have.
Okay. Then I saw that you already given an answer to these
Yeah,
DevOps question.
I
Yep.
put an answer here because I want to share the PDF, the technical
Yeah.
paper. Yuta,
Yeah.
I put also the link in the
Yeah.
chat. If you can copy and paste, please.
I shared it already in the chat, but I can
Perfect.
also copy paste
Wonderful.
it there. Yeah.
Thank you. And the
Wonderful.
question is about what Apex provides to streamline the update of the application regarding database and Apex. So we have a great technical paper to address the application development lifecycle with Apex. I put the link here. This technical paper also includes scripts that you can customize. There are a number of approaches that you can use. Even you can use Git. So it's a good idea to take a look and see what you can use for your environment.
Okay. Last question so far, comparing or assigning to single sign-on. Does it require Oracle Access Manager to be up and running for single sign-on with Apex?
It requires Oracle AM to configure single sign-on. I'm not sure about it.
Okay, so we will post that later and give an answer in on our webpage, no matter. So let's go ahead, and one of the other question is we consider, or we are facing very often forms modules which are overloaded with features, so they are full of functionalities. So the question is how to change the paradigms for a complex form to a more web-based accessible format. So what is your advice if I'm trying to migrate an overloaded forms module?
Okay, so before to answer this, sometimes when you have a form, right? Let's say you only have one form, right? It doesn't mean that this is going to be one page in your Apex application. This can be converted into 2 or 3 pages in Apex. Why? Because, as you say, if you have a number of features, a lot of data in just one form, probably this is going to be very difficult for your users to understand what to do there, right? And also to read the information correctly.
Yeah.
So the best approach is always to have a very user-friendly, that is, sorry, I'm talking very bad. The best approach is that you have a platform that allows users to access and to use this platform easily, right? That they can see as for example, you have a very good example here in the screen. If you access to this page, you immediately see what you have to do here, right? You clearly see the actions, right? I think it says new or something, you can add more rows to this page, but essentially that's the whole idea, that if you immediately see the page, you understand what you need to do here, right? If you have a number of things to do, probably your users, we are going to be distracted by that. And they are not going to feel satisfied with the change from forms to Apex. So when you do this type of modernization, it's not only mimic what you have in forms to Apex, right?
So wonderful that you pick up that screen, but in general, it should address another topic, but it's fine that you understood what we are doing over there. Sometimes if there's an overloaded forms module, it's not as easy to cut out what are the streamlined processes. So what I want to extract, so it's hard for a developer to understand that. What we are enabling with our product approach is something like putting up a couple of cookies in your application or analyze the WebLogic server trace file to see what really belongs to a specific process. So over here in the table, you could see that somebody is using the simple order entry application, and you could see without any additional manual effort, it's just coming out of the WebLogic server trace, that the user is querying records in a table, opening a forms, navigate to an item, insert an item, etc. So we are able to identify business processes in an old legacy forms application and cut out only those things which you want to streamline in your new Apex application. So that helps you to identify the processes which I could start with. Wonderful. So then,
Stefan, I think,
yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think we can also try to take up the question which is addressed now. Shipping logics from forms to a database. Will it be a completely manual task, or is there any tool available for it? I think it would be cool for you to take it up additional to your answer.
Yeah, brilliant question. Yeah, we provide, our product itself provides exactly that what you try to address. So it's not a manual task. We identify candidates which are able to be moved to database, and we will move those things to database. We have a very strong record, pattern recognition, and the availability of replacing fragments like typically error handling, logging, naming convention, etc., which could be customized. So it's for us, it's independent of the size of the application. It's a one-time effort to move that with our product into the database. Independent if you like to have a UI architecture approach or a table-based architecture approach. Then the next question, I will directly dive in. So what would be the steps to go from Forms 9 to Apex? It's exactly the same. The Forms version for us itself is totally independent. We support with our product from the early Forms version until the latest 12c, because we extract all the metadata out of Forms into our product. So the way it's exactly the same. Let's focus on some other questions. So one of those is just multi-language or internationalization issue. How could we do that in a fast time, even if that is an Arabic language? That points us to question route about general application attributes. So how could we manage that, Monica?
Mm-hmm. So in Apex, we have a feature called for globalization, right? So you can have multiple languages supported for your application. In this case, for the question, it's just one language, Arabic, right? But you can build your application in with support to this language or multiple languages as you need it, right? So essentially, this is not going to be a problem. This is not going to be a problem with the modernization. It's just something that you have to take care when you create your application. Define also the globalization support that you can have. And also something else to add here is that in Apex, let me go there. When you go to share components in the globalization attributes, you can have also an attribute for the document direction, because Arabic is not right to left, it's not left to right, it's right to left, right? So there is another thing that you have to take in mind, and you just need declarative change that attribute for this particular language, right?
So just to add, before we go to the templates and their possibilities, we saw that a couple of customers in the past using the Oracle Translation Hub or Translation Manager to enable multi-language support for Forms application. So with our product approach, we are able to extract all those metadata and translation out of these Translation Hub or Translation Builder, depending on the version, and provide that into the I would say key value pairs or so translation properties for Apex, so that you could directly start with your existing translation also in Apex if you want to have that in a multi-language approach. Okay, so then the other question on that page is according to templates and consistent user screens. What is the answer of Apex for this?
Also, we have in Apex something for the user interface. So I recommend you to go to apex.oracle.com to explore all of the features that we include. And you can find one called user interface, right? And with this, you can define the templates or the styles that you want to use for your application. You are also going to find something called the theme roller, right? If you are not an expert with CSS and so on, you can use the theme roller to define the style for your application. There are I think 4 styles that you can use pre-configured, but if you don't want to use those, you can create your own style, right? Also, as I mentioned, you can create your templates, your specific theme that you want to use, not only for one application, but for multiple applications, right? In that way, you can get a consistent user interface for your entire modules or application that you build.
Okay, just to add from our side, when we start generating Apex fragments, so based on the forms components, we are able to generate Apex components. We rely on existing templates from the customer. So depending on what kind of master application and template application are created on customer side, in this direction we generate with our product the Apex fragments, so that it's directly from the very first beginning consistent to your rules. Next question is just thinking about the use cases for Apex. So one of the question was, is it possible to create really complex application with low code? So Monica, what will be your answer?
Yes, absolutely. And we also have a number of different use cases, right? One of the use cases is the modernization from Forms to Apex. But if you want to build a completely new Apex application, of course, we can do it. Also, you can extend the ERP functionality that you already have with Apex, for example, e-business suite or any other type of ERP that you have. You can find the use cases that we have on apex.oracle.com, but also you can see or you can read the success stories from our customers on apex.oracle.com. And there are specific success stories from the modernization from Forms to Apex. And I think, Stefan, you are going to share another story?
Yeah, one of those is together with our customers Advantage, who follow our approach together with our product capabilities, and it's an enterprise application. It's around about 580 modules are part of this application for the US government, and it's totally completed or totally on the way to Apex, and consists of multiple products inside. And you could see that the modern screens are in some cases similar to the old Forms one, but totally sometimes rework to fulfill new business needs. And they are totally happy with Apex, and they stop developing in Forms. Any new development will take in Apex. And so that is totally go with Apex and to be available and existing in complex, really complex environments. Okay, no. So next part is, I think beside that migration, there are a couple of things which where Apex could help to have a very efficient development environment, right, Monica?
Correct. And I put here a couple of things that you have that you can take in consideration, because Apex offers all the phases required for building new applications, right? Or to modernize your Forms applications to using Apex, right? You can build these applications on cloud, on premises, and the most important part here is that you can address and to meet all the requirements that you might have for your existing Forms applications, but also for the upcoming requirements that you have, right? So you can include workflows, forms, charts. You can build different type of reports in Apex. You can include maps, REST services, and much more, right? And something here to take in mind is that if you already have an Oracle database, you already have Apex, and there, since Apex is a no-cost feature, there is no, you don't have to pay any license additional to use Apex, right? And another point here is that if you have investment business logic in the database, you can reuse all of that.
Yeah.
As we mentioned before, you can invoke the packages, the procedures, and so on, right?
Yep.
You can have the builder where you can build any type of page types that you need, right, for your application. You can use the wizards to easily create the application or to easily add more pages to your application. You can have all the features that we just talked, like the security for the authentication, the navigation for the templates, the styles also that you can use in your application, and the number of APIs. So you can also customize your applications to take full control or full advantage of all the capabilities in Apex, right?
Yeah. So,
And I didn't mention also that you can build these applications 20 times faster, right?
yeah.
It's awesome. I don't know, Stephanie, if you have measured that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really great. So we use Apex for our own product development, and it's much more faster rather than the former forms development environment. And that is also what we heard from our customer, that they are much more efficient with Apex, and especially in the migration. You mentioned that there are a couple of wizards available, which helps me to create pages from different styles. So what we try to add with our product is to be more efficient in the migration itself. So rather than using the wizard in Apex, we provide the possibility to create these fragments based on your existing forms application. So if you have, so in that case, a module with 3 different kind of blocks, you could decide which kind of region type you want to have for each of those blocks. And in that case, all of these queries behind the block, all the validations, the prompts, the labels, the sizes and sources are overtaken into your Apex page, so that you have a brilliant starting point after this migration to use whatever Monica advised to you as new functionalities. So you don't have to start on a blank field, on a green field, so you could overtake what is necessary. And it's a selective part. You don't have to close your eyes and walk over everything, so you could directly select what I want to overtake into your Apex environment. So that is brilliant. But nevertheless, we don't want to hide that there are a couple of obstacles and challenges if you want to go into the development environment of Apex. So Monica, what is your experience? What are the most challenging part in such a modernization?
Well, there are a couple of challenges, right? Because you are moving from one paradigm to another, completely different. Probably if you are in 6i, it's a client server, and then you are going to move to a web-based application, right? It's completely different. But more than that, I will say that most of the major challenges sometimes are because the mindset that you might have, right? The mindset from the developer, right, to put as much as they can in one page, or also the mindset to mimic exactly what they have in forms to Apex. And another one is the resistance from the end users, right? Because they don't want they change, right? From one environment to another, to one platform to another. So it's very important that you can communicate what are the benefits that they are going to gain, what are the cool features that that you are able to address with this type of project. So, and also that they can see and they can play with the new Apex application by themselves, right? That they can see the real value of this modernization.
Okay, there's one question. The second one is about the performance. Before we start talking about a couple of other challenges, do you see any performance decrease while using the same database for forms than afterwards for Apex? Are there any differences?
No, not really. It shouldn't. But I have to say that this, of course, depends on the PSQL code that you have, right? The logic that you have. If you are facing any type of low performance in your Apex applications, probably this is because of the quality of your PSQL code, right? Or the SQL query that you are using for one particular region, right? So it is not Apex, it's the business logic behind that. So this is something that you have to consider to review.
And I could totally underline this. A bad SQL statement in forms got not a good one in Apex and vice versa. So if you slow down something, in most cases, your SQL statements are the one who slow down the application. I don't have heard about any customer we migrate that he has to increase power on the database to allow running the Apex application. So that is our experience. There's one question coming up. I think it's back to the themes, but it's a short one, and I believe your answer will be very quick. Somebody is asking for, can we change font size, text box size without customizing it? So what is your advice?
So I think I already talked about the theme roller that you can use, right, to customize. I'm not sure what is the way that you can use power-ups to customize something like that. But in Apex, it's pretty straightforward. You can go to the theme roller and you can start customizing this type of attributes, right? And also, I'm going to put in the question one link to the universal theme so you can see different approaches or different scenarios to customize your regions, items, and also what else? Buttons. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Then we are talking about performance, and there's a question: what do you with interactive report that brings more than 10,000? Would it be fast? Would you like to answer first, or should I?
Well, this is a tricky question because we don't know how you build the SQL query for this, right? It's hard to say it will be fast. We don't know, right? We have to see your SQL query in action, right? If we are talking just about the interactive report, yes, it is going to be fast. But this depends on the SQL query that you are using, right? I don't know what else you want to add, Stefan?
Only two things from my experience. The first one is if you select 10,000 rows in forms and have query all records to yes in forms, it will take exactly the same time. So SQL will be the slowest comparing to the environment, either if it's forms or Apex. That is part number one. And part number two, what I'd like to add is, what is the real business use case to see 10,000 rows at once in a report? So I could not assume that I am, as a customer, have the need to see 10,000 rows. So that, for me, the first question will be, what is the use case to have 10,000 rows in my web page available?
Correct. And perhaps it will be great to know if they really need an interactive report, or perhaps they need something like a facial search that they can filter the data, right?
Exactly.
Because for a user, it's not easy to read these 10,000 of rows, right? And you have to think, okay, what is the real benefit of this? Or you can create a chart based on this data.
Yeah, that brings me to a point, and I just skipped one slide. We'll come back to that later. But you mentioned I'm able to enhance the existing application with brand new features which come along with Apex. And I think that is a good point to talk about that, because I could change the process in Apex because I have new possibilities.
Exactly. Well, this is something that we have talked about, the globalization, the user interface, right? But in Apex, you probably can add even more functionality, right? If you can compare with the existing form application that you have. Okay, so as I mentioned, you can include a different type of page types. You can include workflow, charts, and so on, right? You can manipulate the data, you can display it, you can use a chart, and so on, right?
Yeah.
But also, I think we haven't talked about this cool feature about the mobile functionality, because your new Apex application can run on any device. Also, you can install this application on almost any device, on your desktop, on the mobile device, right? So this is completely different what you have before, right? You can use progressive web applications. You can send push notifications to the user thanks to the progressive web applications. As I mentioned, you can include workflows, you can define automation, and there are a number of features that you can include to address the requirements that you have today or in the future. Also, another thing to include here, Stefan, is that in Apex, we have 2 releases per year, right? So, for example, last year, we have 23.1 and 23.2. In each version of Apex, we also include new functionality, new features. And the idea of this is that you can meet your business requirements easily, right? So this is another thing to consider with Apex, that this is a product that is evolving every year.
So wonderful. Before we even start thinking about new requirements and new functionalities with Apex, what we saw in the past is that we have to ensure that the existing functionality is already covered in Apex. And what I try to add is over here that we support with our product a checklist for the forms developer to finalize all open requirements which are already solved or already fulfilled in the forms environment. So if you do the migration and thinking about adding new functionality to your forms application, you could very simply cross-check if all the existing ones like validation and processes and navigations are covered out of your existing forms application. That helps to streamline the migration, and it helps the developer to not oversee any kind of requirement. So that helps really, and it's used by all of our customers. Coming back to your questions, there's one left, which is already a big topic, I think, for all the forms to Apex migration project. That's the part of Oracle reports. So in some cases, Oracle reports is also part of the application. What is your answer if I want to go to Apex? So what are the first choice?
Yeah, and regarding reports, there is another a question in the Q&A about this topic. For example, when we talk about reports in general, sometimes the reports that you need can be covered by different components in Apex. For example, you can use classic reports, interactive grids, or interactive reports, right? Because essentially you don't need a pixel perfect format for those. But if you need a pixel perfect report like an invoice or something like that, you can use Oracle Analytics Publisher or AOP or Jasper Report Integration, Massprint, and even now in OSI, we have a new tool to create these reports. And I'm going to share the link as well, so you can read more about it. Even we have a sample application for this document generator. Going to put here, Uta, the link so you can share it, right? So now you have even more options to create your reports with Apex.
Yep. So our experience in the past is that you have a good step with these capabilities in Apex. If it come along with a pixel perfect solution and a real, I would say, heavy loaded report environment, we just see Jasper reports as a successful successor of Oracle reports, and you could integrate that in Apex in the same way. It's just based on web service calls to integrate our Jasper reports, and that is more or less like a real Java and development environment for that reporting tool, and it's also possible. In general, Apex is open for integrating also other tools like Apex Office Print, and you mentioned already BI Publisher or AOP for a solution.
Mm-hmm.
There's one question, very interesting one, because I heard about that Oracle set up a government cloud or running a government cloud in the US also with own dependencies. Are there any restrictions on the features, or is everything which we talk about in the Oracle ecosystem also in the government cloud available?
Yeah, it's the same features. You just need to take in mind if you are using autonomous database or the Apex service, there are some restrictions or limitations that you might have to consider, but essentially it's the same product.
Yep, wonderful. And then a question I saw you already tried to type in. It's the number of users should each you already. No, it's still available. The number of users should each Apex license have. So perhaps you could directly answer
Yeah.
that.
So take in mind that Apex is a characteristic of the Oracle database, right? It's a no-cost characteristic, so or feature, as you want to mention. But you don't have any restrictions to use Apex. You don't have any limitation on the number of users, applications, or workspaces, right? So you, in the end users or developers, right? Any number of end users can run your applications. You don't have any type of limitation on that.
Okay, wonderful, great. So we are at the end of our questions. So whenever there's somebody have some open questions, please drop them into the Q&A channel so far. Otherwise, at the moment, I will stop my sharing to allow Uta to have a small wrap up and with possible next steps.
Just holding on for a second to see if there's still someone typing, because now would be your chance to address your last questions. Also, thank you so much for your input and your active participation. It was really brilliant. Okay, if not so, I will share my screen again. Thank you, Stefan. Because I mean, what a session it was. As I said already, thank you so much for all your questions and input. Monica, Stefan, thank you also so much for your input. Monica, for your blog entry and all the contribution, Stefan, from your experience from projects, from our daily business here at PITS, as well as Monica from Oracle. Any questions which couldn't be addressed yet or have been asked before and were not taken up during the webinar, please be assured they will be answered after the webinar, either on our homepage or within any emails as follow-ups upon that webinar. And it might be that you are left with the question, so what's next for me? What's next for our company, for my team? And we would like to propose 2 possible first steps, next steps, however you want to call it. And that is one which we call Apex Life Experience Workshop. And that's actually perfectly fitting for anyone who would like to experience the transformation from Forms to Apex within a live and hands-on workshop. That's actually emphasizing to those who whose teams or companies have little to really less experience in Apex. For those who would like to take directly a deeper dive into Apex, as well as in their application, we offer the Forms to Apex analysis. It is loaded with full potential because it will actually calculate preparation, which includes that code, what Stefan and Monica mentioned, their candidates business logic to database, redundancies, and a lot of other things which will actually reduce in the end the project effort. An analysis also allows you to build your application, or actually to project it, into a flow. Means your entire application will be shown within triggers, dependencies, and anything else which is inside your application. And also it will calculate those analysis, will calculate the technical challenges and necessary efforts within your Forms to Apex project, because most of the time you're actually left with the question, what efforts are actually needed? I have a huge application, time, budget wise, we will actually make it visible for you with the Forms to Apex analysis. And it will also include a management perspective, which is an evaluation on costs and benefits. Nevertheless, roundup Forms to Apex analysis will also enable you to have a clear project view, also have clear first steps in how to tackle all the challenges you see within your application and potential project Forms to Apex. So those two steps are our offers to you, how to actually get your project started from Forms to Apex, how to modernize, if either cluster-wise or Big Bang. That's always the big question, and we are there for you to answer the question. Dive with you either with a hands-on workshop or with a deep dive Forms analysis into your application. I would like to round up the session. As I said already, thank you so much for your participation, for your input. And we are here for you. If you want to get in contact with us, please feel free to address your questions which haven't been placed here yet, and also to take the first step together. Thank you so much. Have a good day. Take care and goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.